Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Crypto Invest. So I have been pretty offline the last couple of days. I have not really done any videos because of the Southern California fires. The Thomas fire in Ventura County. I actually live in Ventura County, California, and the fire is around 30 minutes away from where I am. Even though I'm not in a danger zone, but I do feel the side effects of the fires. So some of that meaning the power was actually on and off for quite a bit the last couple of days, which make it hard for me to be able to produce content for everyone. But today, I do want to talk to you about Bitcoin and then about Ethereum and lastly about Litecoin. We're going to talk about some of the current news and current trend in this market. As always, this is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as investment advice. So let's get into it. So when I first set up this video, I was preparing to talk about Bitcoin hitting 13,000, but that is since old news. Bitcoin now is at 14,194. Quite an amazing run the last 24 hours. I mean, it seems like we are blowing through 1,000 like it is nothing nowadays. So what caused this crazy surge that you have saw the last couple of days in Bitcoin? So no doubt the most influential news that I can find out there is the fact that the Bitcoin price surge in advance of the trading of Bitcoin futures on the December 10 and then December 18. December 10, I believe that is the CBOE. Bitcoin Future Exchange started on there, and then December 18, the CME Bitcoin Future Exchange gonna start as well. So it looks like everyone is taking position, getting ready for the launch of the Bitcoin Future Exchange. And overall, it does seem like the market is fairly bullish on Bitcoin at the moment, meaning they're expecting that on the December 10 and December 18, the Bitcoin price is gonna go up quite a bit because of the Bitcoin Future launch. Now, I do want to say that although I am pretty bullish on Bitcoin overall, you got to be careful as well, because the Bitcoin future will also allow the traders and the investors, especially institutional investors, to short the market. So to me, this is the largest news that caused Bitcoin to go up quite a bit the last couple of days. Other than that, we do have a few other headlines that I thought was interesting, fairly positive, so I want to share them with you. First off is that SBI, they are an exchange and they are going to, SBI by the way is a Japanese exchange, and they are going to partner with Huobi. And as many of you know, Huobi used to be a pretty large cryptocurrency exchange in China, but since China has a crackdown in the ICO market and the exchange market, the partnership between SBI and Huobi is going to give Huobi a better exposure to the Japanese cryptocurrencies exchange market, which is pretty much on fire at the moment. Next, as you guess, Tokyo Financial Exchange is going to begin planning for Bitcoin futures starting the beginning of 2018. I kind of see this coming. Japan is typically pretty ahead of the world in terms of adoption and in terms of investment into cryptocurrency, so it is very likely that they are going to launch their own Bitcoin future exchange. I'm sure following the success of the CBOE or the CME. So depending on that success, I think that's gonna really set the tone for the Tokyo Bitcoin futures. And in terms of adoption, we have a tons more adoptions. So today's news is that the private airline Surf Air going to accept Bitcoin and Ethereum as payment. I do want to say that adoption for Bitcoin nowadays, is a little bit different than what it used to be. So it used to be that when, like for example, back then when Steam or Overstock accept cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, then it's legitimized Bitcoin and Ethereum, for example. But nowadays, it does seem like this is a two-way beneficial. It does give the company who are accepting Bitcoin an exposure in terms of news and press coverage. And sometimes in the case of Overstock.com, you do see that their stock price tripled this year on news that they're accepting cryptocurrencies as payments. So it's definitely very beneficial for companies to come out and say that they're accepting Bitcoin. It's not. I don't think it's painting a good picture of the fact that they're expecting a lot of Bitcoin payment or Ethereum payment. But it certainly does benefit them in terms of having press conference and news coverage surrounding the fact that they are accepting cryptocurrencies. So keep that in mind, because my next story is exactly to that. Steam, which is a platform where you can buy computer video games, is a platform where you can play with others, and some of the most popular games like Counter-Strike. Steam has been a long supporter of Bitcoin. They one of the very few at the beginning that allow you to pay for their games and their products with Bitcoin, but it is stating today that it is planning to no longer supporting Bitcoin. And the reason why they don't support Bitcoin anymore is because the fact that the fees are too high and the time it takes for Bitcoin transaction to settle is too long. And this is nothing news. I want to place this news against the news that you saw recently with company that accepting Bitcoin versus someone who has been a long time supporter of Bitcoin to no longer accepting Bitcoin. And this really echo the fact that regardless if you like it or not, Bitcoin is not using mainly in transaction currently. It's all the transaction on Bitcoin is really for tradings and moving between wallets. It's really not for commercial use or commercial use at all, in my opinion, because of the fees are too high and the time it takes too long to transfer Bitcoin. So it's not that efficient for merchants to use Bitcoin as a primary mean of payment for their goods and services. And it's really also echo, whether or not you believe Bitcoin is the gold standard for cryptocurrencies. It is the, digital gold for the millennials and for a lot of people. It really does show that Bitcoin main case, it does seem like, and I know some of you may not agree, it does seem like the main case, in my opinion, at the moment, is really a store of value, something that can store values and don't depreciate. Well, as far as we know, it hasn't been depreciating the last 9 years. No one knows the futures, but at the moment, it does seem like that is the strongest case for Bitcoin at the moment. And moving on to, Mike Novogratz have a statement about the fact that if Bitcoin keep rising and taking larger and larger market shares of the traditional market, Bitcoin currently is pretty high in terms of market cap. It is almost at 250 billion US dollars. So as Bitcoin continues to grow, it's gonna attract more and more attention from the regulators, and I think he's right on that. So far we do know that countries taking turn to come out and give their own statement, announcement on whether or not they believe in Bitcoin or they don't. Bigger country like the US, for example, where I am currently at, we haven't had a clear instruction as to whether or not where the Trump administration is going to, endorse Bitcoin or not endorse Bitcoin. We do know that the IRS has been cracking down on those who try to avoid taxes by using Bitcoin. So that is actually happened. So this is still, to me, one of the bigger risks for Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies is that some of the major countries, like the US, still has not made it clear as to their stand on Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. So moving on to Ethereum. So you are looking at Ethereum on Coinbase, on THEO, on the hourly chart, and it doesn't look too good. It looks like there is quite a bit of sell-off today, and as far as the news, nothing very negative against the Ethereum. It's just the fact that, when Bitcoin is rising, it does seem like a lot of the top currencies are try to catch up Bitcoin. As you can see that not a whole lot of cryptocurrencies right now, in terms of altcoins, can keep up with Bitcoin. And it looks like there is a sales off in a lot of the major currencies. And some of those probably are going into Bitcoin at the moment. So take a look at Ethereum, it's down almost 10%. Bitcoin Cash almost down 8%. And then Ripple, Dash, they are down to about 7.5% roughly. Bitcoin Gold down 11%. So a lot of this actually selling off probably is to go into Bitcoin. As you can see, Bitcoin is up 20% to date, which is pretty huge. Consider it has a 238 billion market caps, meaning that you do have to inject roughly about $40 billion into this market to make up the 20% that you saw there. So quite significant, quite interesting. But let's talk about Ethereum very quickly here. So first off, Vitalik Buterin is named one of the top 50 most influential people according to Bloomberg magazines. You can take a look for the magazine for yourself, but this is fairly interesting news. You are putting Vitalik Buterin against some of the very well-known people out there, you know, the CEOs and the high-level politician out there. So Vitalik definitely viewed as you know, pretty highly by Bloomberg magazines, and Bloomberg magazine is a long time I wouldn't say supporter, but it's a long time follower of cryptocurrencies. They have written numerous articles, good and bad, about cryptocurrencies. So Vitalik is someone that they held very highly regard in terms of influential people, especially in the cryptocurrencies world. In terms of that, I'm sure you heard by now, the CryptoKitties game that was placed on Ethereum. This is the game. Let me show you my CryptoKitties. This is my CryptoKitties profiles. I don't have any kitties at the moment, but I do want to sign in to show you what it looks like. And this is the game that you play with Ethereum. So it's based on Ethereum. You do have to download the MetaMask wallet. And then with the MetaMask wallet, you can log into CryptoKitties.io, I believe. And then what you can do is you can buy and sell kitties on here using Ethereum. And basically each of the kitty, the way you think about it as high level, is really a smart contract. So some of the kitty here is going for quite a bit. So the most expensive, you can see that it's going for 301,000 ethers. So some of those can go as high as 170,000 US dollars, and some of the cheapest one you can find is probably about $30. And the way that it's gonna work is you buy them and you own the kitties. It's on a blockchain. You can either buy multiple kitties and you can have them made, and then you can have kitties baby, and then you can sell the kitten for Ethereum. Or you can have if you have a pretty good kitties, then you can go ahead and have them up here for basically something called searing. Searing is when you can have the kitty here and other kitties that want to mate with you for for CryptoKitties baby. They can go in here, they can pay you Ethereum for that, and then you can use Ethereum to buy more kitty to reinvest in here, and then or you can just cash it out. All of this sounds ridiculous to you, I know, but I want to bring this up to you to point out two things. So this particular game here is what caused Ethereum to be super slow the last 2 days. So as of yesterday, the CryptoKitties accounted for 15% of all Ethereum transaction. And when I was transferring Ethereum, it actually took over 4 hours for my Ethereum to go from Coinbase to the MetaMask wallet, just because the network is so congested because of this particular game. So I think we are looking at some of the most interesting use case for Ethereum at the moment. Certainly, you can look at this as a game that was built on the blockchains. Unlike any other game like Beanie Baby, or you are talking about Pokemon, those games are owned and run by an enterprise. And those enterprises own the data. They can shut you out of the game. They can change the rule of the game. CryptoKitties is similar in that aspect, but it's not similar in the sense that it is a decentralized network. You actually own your CryptoKitty. No one can take it away from you. No one can change the rules of the game because everything's on the blockchain. And another way to look at this is this really just an altcoin. This is the interesting way to introduce a new altcoin into the market. You basically, the way I'm looking at it is you almost participating on an ICO almost, but instead you get something out of it. So rather than you get a token, you get a kitty. So CryptoKitty is another cryptocurrency essentially. That's how I really seeing it. And every 15 minutes you do have a generation 0 kitty coming out every 15 minutes, and generation 0 is going to be the one that worked a lot, and then as the generation 0 have babies, their baby gonna be generation 1, and then if their babies have babies, they're gonna be generation 2, and so far and so on, and they get less and less expensive as you go down the list. This really to me is just think of them as a block generation. So every 15 minutes is a block. That's how I think about it, and each block you will have a generation 0 kitty as a reward. That's how I really think about this. Also, the generation for generation 0 kitties, they will come out every 15 minutes, and they're gonna stop by the end of next year, by the end of November, I believe. So until then, no more generation 0 kitty will ever be generated after that. So that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at this is that it raised huge awareness to Ethereum current network to show that Ethereum is not ready for mass use cases at all. The fact that they can't even handle a crypto kitty games on their network, that causes a huge congestion. Think about if there is a decentralized application that is widely used by a lot of people, highly sought after. How are they going to handle the network then? So the good thing is Ethereum does have quite a bit of development already in place. So some of those, as I talk about on this channel, you are going to have the second phase of the Metropolis update coming up, hopefully pretty soon here, the Constantinople. But on top of that, the number one things that Ethereum really focus on is to solve their scaling issue. So there's a lot of scaling solution that currently being worked on. So that's a good thing. And some of those I talk about, Casper is really trying to move Ethereum from proof of work to proof of stake. So basically move from mining over to staking. And then you also have sharding, which is another solution that they are currently testing. Sharding, as my previous video, I explained that it is a way for a block to be kind of divided by multiple pieces, a shard if you will, and then each of those will be handled by a separate computer to solve for that piece, and then everything be put together at the end to speed up the network. So that's another interesting solution that's coming out. You also have micro-Raiden or the Raiden network. That is also something similar to what you saw on the Bitcoin network, where they are trying to implement the Lightning network. So the Raiden network is too aimed to do the same things, trying to solve scaling by doing transaction up chain. And then you also have something interesting. The other day, someone coming out about TrueBit. So TrueBit is, rather than trying to solve the transaction size or transaction speed, it's looking to lift the computational limit of Ethereum. So it's gonna make Ethereum do a lot more computation, plus it's gonna increase the speed of the network. So that's another interesting thing on the map. A lot of interesting projects for Ethereum is already in progress, and we can see a lot of this come to fruition starting next year. So exciting time for Ethereum. Like I say, the Ethereum price going down is not indicative of the fact that the network is not doing well or some bad news about it. It's just the fact that a lot of this could be just people selling off so they can buy more Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is the name of the game at the moment. I mean, looking at that, 14,397 already. We're gonna see $20,000 fairly soon if it keep going this way. Next is a quick update. It looked like the parity issue that I talk about on this channel, where there was about 150 millions worth of Ether was locked up in the parity wallet because the smart contract was accidentally being killed. It looks like they are looking for an upgrade on their network without the need to roll back Ethereum blockchain to hopefully get the fund out of that smart contracts. So we are waiting to see. I hope that they can do this. I wasn't a big fan of the fact that they look into Ethereum to basically roll back the network, because that will eventually cause an issue like Ethereum and Ethereum Classics once again. So it's good, and I hope that they can achieve what they are trying to do here, which is trying to do an upgrade on their network in order for them to get the Ethereum out of the dead contract essentially. Next, I just want to talk really quickly with you about Litecoin. So Litecoin has quite an amazing run. Let me go ahead and show you the 1 month chart. So over 1 month, Litecoin basically doubled itself already. It's had quite a bit of a run, and it's do so very quietly, right? Litecoin doesn't have a big PR team. They don't have a lot of advertisement budget like Dash. They are quietly moving up. You know, the most news you're gonna get from Litecoin is really from Charlie Lee. Charlie Lee is pretty active on Twitter, and you know, he constantly talk about his vision for Litecoin. Like earlier today, he posted a post on Medium explaining his thoughts on Litecoins, and I thought it was interesting. So a lot of people say if Bitcoin successfully solved the scaling issue and the network can be fast and it can be cheap, why do you need to use Litecoin for? And he really making a case for Litecoin here. His example I thought was interesting, which I'm gonna share with you, is that think of it being two highways. He mean Bitcoin and Litecoin. Today, Bitcoin is packed full of cars and Litecoin is empty. Meaning Bitcoin had a lot of transactions pending, and Litecoin is pretty empty and fast at the moment. Even with Bitcoin pack, the cars are not coming to use the Litecoin highway today because it is not connected and it's inconvenience, centralized exchanges and slow on-chain transfer to go across. Lightning Network will build bridges over the highways, but a side benefit is that these bridges will connect both highways together. Maybe the bridges on Bitcoin are enough such that cars will still stay on the Bitcoin highway. My bet is that the convenience and the cheaper tolls on Litecoin highway will convince cars to cross over and use Litecoin, but we don't know until they both are built. So what he's saying here, everyone, is fairly straightforward, is that the fact that Bitcoin is slow and expensive, but people are not using Litecoin as an alternative simply because people then have to first exchange their Bitcoin to Litecoin. And the only way to do so nowadays is to go through a lot of centralized exchanges at the moment. So if he can build a Lightning Network and the atomic swap in a way that you can instantly exchange your Bitcoin to Litecoin and use it for a transaction, that can make it more enticing for people, versus now you have to go into your Coinbase account, for example, and then switch your Bitcoin to your Litecoin. You have to wait for confirmation. All of that takes a lot of time. Therefore, it's not convenient for people to just simply switch their Bitcoin to Litecoin. So that's what exactly he's talking about here, and I tend to agree with that. Litecoin, like I just say, they don't have a big PR team. They're not in the news all the time. So a lot of the growth in here that you see is a lot of the long-time supporter, and they continue to support Litecoin. So I do think that the growth is fairly organic versus the growth in something like Dash is a lot more you know, PR driven, in my opinion. I mean, I do like Dash, and I have a lot I have a lot more Litecoin and Dash, but I do like Dash as well. But the point I make here is not that Litecoin and Dash which one's better, is because I'm trying to make here the different type of growth that you are seeing. With Litecoin, it's definitely a lot more organic in terms of their growth patterns versus something like Dash, where a lot of, you know, advertisement and PR driven. They're constantly in the news. They're constantly trying to make deals with other people. So I hope that you like this episode that I have put together for you. Definitely leave me any comments below, and I will try to get to them. With that, thank you so much for watching, and hit the like button so others can find the channel, and also subscribe to the channel so you can get more information. With that, thank you again, and I will talk to you soon. Bye bye.